Hey guys, my name is Christian Batuli. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Before starting this video today, I want to ask each one of you guys, how y'all doing? Y'all doing great? Well, good. That's good to hear. Like I've said before plenty of times, any time or any day you get to wake up, any day you get to see the sunshine, any day you get to see the people that you love healthy and happy, and any day you get to, spend time with nature like this. It's a blessing. I know sometimes life gets hard, and we tend to put our head down, but keep your head up. No matter what, a better day will come. So just always remember that. All right, guys, so let's just jump into this conversation. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, it's probably because you are interested about wanting to become an entrepreneur. Yes? Is that right? Yes, I think I got that right. And I want to be the first one to tell you, while you just start thinking like that, it's a great way to think. Because for me personally, as an entrepreneur, I know I started to become a little bit more interested into, becoming an entrepreneur when I simply just got tired of working 9 to 5. I got tired of somebody telling me when to wake up, when to clock in, and when to clock off. I got tired of somebody determining my pay or what I'm worth, whether it's hourly, weekly, monthly, yearly. I got tired of building other people's dreams. And I got tired of someone telling me, how much vacation I can take each year. So those were some of the reasons why I was like, you know what? I need to become independent. I need to figure out a way to make money, independently without having to rely on other people. So once I started to think like that, I started to become more interested and more curious about entrepreneurship. So you thinking like that, it's a great way to think. It's a great choice that you hear. I just want to talk about a few things that if you are a beginner, if you are new into taking this journey of entrepreneurship, first of all, I just kind of want to put it to bed, put it to rest, this misconception about entrepreneur. When I was younger, if someone were to mention entrepreneurship to me, like the picture that would have come to my head would have been of someone struggling, barely able to pay their bills, barely able to make it by, struggling to run a business, struggling to live just because they want to become independent. So for me, initially, I was not even like attracted to the thought of, becoming an entrepreneur, because I just had this image in my head. And what I would tell you now, that that couldn't be further from the truth, because I feel like when you're first beginning in this journey as an entrepreneur, you need to take it little by little. You need to learn, the game. You need to learn things that are necessary. So for me now, I've been an entrepreneur for about 2 years. I have a job. I work 9 to 5. I have two jobs, as a matter of fact. But the reason why I consider myself as an entrepreneur is because I use those two jobs as a way to leverage money, as a way to save more money. So that way I'll be able, to make plays, to do what I need to do, to invest where I need to invest, to start a project. And I know you don't necessarily need a lot of money to start any business or to make money, but it doesn't hurt to have, financial means, to have a little bit of money to back you up when you're starting something. So for me, I use two jobs to try to save as much as possible so I can invest it into my business. So that's just the one misconception about entrepreneurship. It's not always like that. You can take it at your pace. Everybody's way is different. Everybody's path is different. So just take it little by little. And once you are able to quit your job, you're able to start making enough to pay all your bills, then that's when you can maybe quit your job. But you don't have to do it now. You know what I mean? Like I said, I have 2 jobs, so all that to just be able to save up money. So today's video was more about like giving you tips, as a newbie, as somebody who's about to take on this journey of entrepreneurship. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you it's not going to be easy. It's going to be super hard. So don't think by you just wanting to become independent, then everything's going to work out your way. No, it's going to be extremely tough, but it's so worth it. Like the freedom you get from it, the mindset you get from it, and how much you're able to grow from it, like it's priceless. So I will always recommend people to always think independently and to try to make their own destiny, you know, financial destiny. That's what I mean. Like, you want to be able to make your own money. These are things that I wish I knew ahead of time before I became an entrepreneur. So you're welcome. I'm helping you guys out here. And let's start with tip number 1. So tip number 1 is that you have to be social. You have to own up and fine tune your social skills. Now, I'm not saying you have to be buddy with everybody. You have to kiss behind to make friends or for people to follow you or be overly social. That's the one thing I can't stand. Someone who's like overly social. They have to talk to everybody. Now, we're not saying that. But what I'm saying is having good social skills makes you better at your job. If you're a teacher, you have great social skills, you're a much better teacher than a teacher who does not have social skills. If you are a doctor, a lawyer, a cab driver, having social skills makes you better at your job. Now, because there are so many things that you pick up working on your social skills. For example, the ability to network. So if you're trying to go into this space of entrepreneurship, you have to be able to network with people, and in order for you to do that, you have to put yourself out there, attend events, join groups, join clubs that of people that share similar interests to you, because you're going to need that network. Sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So go out there, work on your social skills. It's also, by you working on your social skills, you're also able to work on how to de-escalate, diffuse the situations, especially if you're going into business. Once in a while, you're going to get Karens. They're going to complain about something. They're going to be upset. And it's going to come down to you as, the leader, as the boss, or as the supervisor to diffuse the situation, to de-escalate the situation. And the one last important thing that I think, having a great social skill does is that it helps you be persuasive, especially if you are trying to run a business, if you're trying to convince people of your ideas, of your service, of your business, of your product, you have to be able to be persuasive. And you only can do that by being social. So work on your social skills because it's going to do you well. All right, tip number 2, you have to learn how to ignore criticism. You have to, because you're going to have everybody that's going to judge you, from your parents, from your friends, from your customers. And the one thing you have to know now is that not everybody is going to jump on board until you become a success. When you're first starting out, oh man, like I always think it's best to not tell people, when you're first starting out about your dreams or what you're trying to accomplish, because you're going to hear a lot more negatives than positives. Some of your friends will be the one that will tell you, I don't see how this project that you have is going to work. I don't know how you're going to make money off of it. Do you know the percentage of failed businesses? Like, they're trying to say anything negative to put you down. Maybe they're not doing it consciously to put you down, but something's about the fear that people have themselves, and they're trying to project it into you. So you have to understand that, like, if someone is giving you criticism and it's not constructive, it's not beneficial, you got to learn to ignore them. You have to learn to ignore criticism, like a fine chick walking past a construction site midday. Yes, that's how you got to learn how to ignore criticisms, how to ignore haters. Because this space is already tough enough. Being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's not made for the weak-minded. So you have to have tough skin, and it's okay. Not everybody's going to approve of what you're doing. Not everybody's going to like what you're doing, but you got to ignore them. I'll give you guys a better maybe picture here. You got to ignore them like an NBA player shooting a free throw in a 1 minute game left, game 7, NBA Finals. It's an away game, and the game is tied. What do you think the opposition's fans are going to do? They're going to boo you. So you got to learn to ignore them. Stay locked in. Tip number 3. When you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you got to understand that you are entering a very competitive sport. The money game, it's a rich man's sport. So you have to understand that you have to be competitive. You have to give the market something that makes you stand out away from the rest. Just like an athlete trains every day to work on their skills, to make sure they're well equipped for whatever the game needs of them, for whatever the game asks of them, you need to do the same thing too. There's always something you can do. Especially if you're trying to run a business, you can always work on ways to improve customer retentions. You can always work on ways to improve customer satisfaction. You can always work on ways to minimize cost. You can always find ways to make your product better in terms of quality. You know what I mean? So there's always something you can do. So you got to understand it's very, very competitive. So when you're entering this space, just be ready for it. It's not going to be easy. No one is going to come and give it to you. You got to be ready to compete, and you got to be ready to work your butt off. Like, do your research, analyze things, figure out the best way to separate yourself, to give you an identity, to give you something that when people see, it instantly remind them of you, of your business, of your logo, of your brand. So understand that, very competitive. It's a dog-eat-dog world out here. So be ready for that. Tip number 4, this one is very important. Now, when you are an entrepreneur, in a way, you are hustling. And when you're hustling, you need energy. And I've seen a lot of people that drink coffee, that drink energy drinks, and for the most part, they have energy. Don't get me wrong, but later on, they tend to crash. I've drank coffee before in my life, and I usually love the first 3-4 hours, but once I crash, I don't want to do anything. That's probably one of the reasons why I don't really drink coffee. Once in a while, I would drink energy drinks, but even that is not good for your health. So you need to figure out a better way to find energy. So, and the best way to have energy is simply by being fit, by taking care of your body, by eating right. So someone who's trying to succeed as an entrepreneur knows that they have to give themselves the best chance, to go out there, to grind, to network, to analyze, to shake hands, to enter certain doors, to knock on certain doors. And you need energy for that, and you need a sustain, something that can be reusable. You can only drink so many energy drinks. You can only drink so much coffee. So stay in shape. Continue to work out, trying to eat right. You don't have to be the fittest man in the world or the fittest woman in the world, but try to stay fit as much as possible. Trying to stay healthy as much as possible is going to help you, because you're going to need that energy. All right, tip number 5. Now, in my opinion, I think this is perhaps the most important tip out of all the tips that I'm going to give you today regarding entrepreneurship. So tip number 5 is moral and integrity. Now, I know when it comes to money, not everybody has good morals. I know when it comes to money, not everybody has integrities. A lot of people are willing to compromise their souls. A lot of people are willing to cheat people to make more money. A lot of people are willing to deceive people in order to make more money. But don't become one of those people. Have moral and integrity, something that you can stand on. Because if you run your business that way, if your product represents that, if your vision represents that, then people will always feel connected to you and they will trust you. So don't cheat people. Stand on what you mean. Give people a fair price. I know it's about the money, like you're trying to make money, you're trying to make profit. But if you're starting to go out of your way to squeeze every little bit of profit from your customers to the point where it's not really helping them, then that's not good. So be honest about how you run your business, because reputation is everything. Once you have a good reputation, like it carries all over. Same with bad reputations. But a good reputation can be ruined and never be recovered. So always pay attention to that. Have moral and integrities. The money will come. All right, tip number 6. You need to find a supporting spouse. Now, you don't have to. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have a girlfriend. But if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, what I'm going to say is you cannot be wild out here. Like, if you think you're going to be single and be a successful entrepreneur, which I think you can do, it's possible, but it's super, super, super hard. Because that means either you don't date at all, you don't go on dates much, you stay locked in, with your work, or you're going to have to not have emotions dealing with females. Because when you're single, let's just say you're single, you're going out there every weekend, you're taking different girls on dates. Plus, those girls have personalities. You know what I mean? And you got to deal with that. You got to deal with drama. You got to deal with chaos. Like, how do you expect to be successful as an entrepreneur? It's going to be really hard because nothing grows in chaos. Nothing grows in chaos. So you have to be very, very smart. I recommend people, you don't have to be in a relationship, but you have to be extremely disciplined. But if you do get in a relationship, I would definitely tell you the benefits of that. Once you find you a good spouse, a supportive partner, they're more likely to help you. They're more likely to be of assist to you than to bring you drama, than to bring you pain. So that's why I feel like a lot of billionaires and millionaires are married. They have long-term partners, because when you have somebody that's going to hold you down, it's much easier for you to just go out there and grind. It's so much easier for you to just go out there and figure out ways to make money. But if you're going on random dates, you have this one girl here, and then a week later you have a different girl, and then after that you're wasting money, you're giving your time away, to different girls that don't even deserve it, and then you got to deal with their drama, and especially when you start catching feelings and they're playing games, it is not worth it. Either you stay locked in, don't even entertain other girls until you get to where you need to get, or you find yourself someone, don't just get in a relationship for the sake of it, or because Christians said you need to be in a relationship to be successful. No. But make sure you find yourself a good woman. I'll tell you that. They will help you. You will improve. Because stability is everything. All right, tip number 7. Now, I'm the type of person that don't really go to church often. I'll be honest, I don't go to church. I'm not very religious. But on tip 7, I just think that you need to have some type of a belief. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to be, from a certain religion. You know what I mean? But you have to have something that you believe in, because you're going to need it. Sometimes life... Hold on. So sometimes life will get hard, and the only thing we can rely on is our faith. The only thing that can get us through is our belief towards something. Some people believe it, with the men upstairs. I believe in, the universe. I believe in vibe. I believe in frequency. You know what I mean? So you need to have a strong faith system that you can rely on whenever you need it. I'm not saying you have to be super religious, not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is believe in something. It will help you. Because sometimes we will feel like things are impossible. But when you have that 1% belief, that 0.001% faith, things can work out. So figure out what you believe in. Figure out your spirituality. Figure out, your morality. Figure out what connects you to nature. It's very, very, very important. All right, tip number 8. This one is very important. So I think to become a successful entrepreneur, you have to master these 3 things, these 3 types of intelligence. Now, the first one you have to master is, or at least become good at, is analytical intelligence, meaning the ability to dissect stuff, the ability to break down stuff, the ability to notice stuff, the ability to analyze stuff, ability to read patterns, trends, to read data. All those stuff is very important. So not only you need to master analytical intelligence, you also need to be good at and master practical intelligence. And practical intelligence basically means street smart, common sense, being able to use what in a real life situation, be able to apply the skills and the knowledge that you have in a real world situation. So you have to have practical intelligence. And then lastly, you have to have creative intelligence, being able to, come up with new ideas, being unorthodox, being unpredictable, trying something out of the box, something that people haven't seen before. The willingness to bring creativity, individuality, uniqueness. And I think creative intelligence is the most important out of the other 2 intelligence because, especially when it comes to wealth creation, creativity beats them 2 any day. When it comes to wealth creation, creativity is the name of the game. You have to be creative in order to make money. Because if we're being honest, only a few percentage of millionaires and billionaires became that through their intellect, through their brain, through them being smart. We're talking about people like doctors, lawyers, surgeons. So creativity is very, very important. So learn to master all those 3: analytical intelligence, practical intelligence, and also creative intelligence. Master all 3 of them, and I guarantee you're going to be above the rest. All right, guys. So I'm going to end it here for today. Part 2. Just look out for it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.